Siomra beag.
Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to Sure Look. Sure Listen, the podcast that takes a pop at culture. Sure Look. Sure Listen.
Sure look, sure listen.
Sure look, sure listen.
Sure look, sure listen.
Sure look. Sure listen.
Sure look, sure listen.
Sure look, sure listen. Ooh, Benjamin. It's the spookiest time of the year. 4 months exactly before Halloween, when all the trailers for the Halloween movies come out. Ooh. But sure, look, we don't have time to be frightened out of our britches because we've loads of things to look at, including the trailers for Smile 2. This time it's going after Lady Gaga. And we've had a trailer for The Wolfman and Dracula. They're both coming back. And even more terrifying than any of that, Benjamin, and you know this all too well, the greatest horror film of all, Your Mother-in-Law Coming to Live With You. But your look, Benjamin. You don't give me that look. You don't give me that look, Benjamin. You don't give me that behind-the-scenes look. You don't give me that behind-the-scenes gossip look.
I
Benjamin,
didn't say anything. I didn't say a fucking thing.
we have our favourite genre of thing to review. The celebrities are back at it, Ben. They're writing comic books, or are they? And you and I have both seen the latest episode of The Boys.
Sure, listen, Michael, if that wasn't enough, and you thought it was, Michael, because you stopped before you got to the review section of your bit.
Yeah, I forgot. I was riffing too hard on the mother-in-law joke.
Riffed too close to the sun, ladies and gentlemen. But sure, listen, Michael, if that wasn't enough, and it really isn't for a bi-week or for it's a weekly. I'm thinking
it's
of our
weekly,
other
Ben.
podcast,
7
Michael,
years.
Started Departed.
7 years we've been doing this, Ben. But that's all right. You just forget that it's every Monday.
But, ladies and gentlemen, hell is other people, or in my case, hell is Mick. But that's my punishment for all eternity. Perhaps yours is that person on the tram who keeps bumping off you or making you sniff their armpit. Terrible stuff. Hell is other people. How the horror of the mundane has permeated its way into every nook and cranny of the modern horror landscape.
Oh, very exciting, Benjamin. But you know what the most terrifying thing of all, though, is?
What?
The number of reviews we have currently on Spotify.
Michael, each time I look at Spotify and see the figure betwixt the parentheses, I panic, Michael. My stomach goes all aflutter and the sky clouds over as the moon reveals itself. But ladies and gentlemen, do you know the silver bullet you could deliver to the heart of my deepest, darkest fears? Very good.
I'm just doing sound
ladies and
effects.
gentlemen, you could just give us a review wherever you listen. Now, ladies and gentlemen, you might be sitting there and saying to yourselves, Jesus, it's very early to be begging for reviews, lads. Well, we've been doing it 7 years.
7
I'd
years.
say it's a bit late.
Yeah.
It's a bit late.
Yeah.
Right.
Just please. Benjamin, speaking of too little too late, we got a trailer for Smile 2.
Lady Gaga now.
This time it's Lady Gaga. Benjamin, I have to say, when I saw the trailer for Smile 2, the follow-up to 2019 Smile, it might not have been 2019, I took a stab there. My first reaction is, oh, they've got Lady Gaga, but it's not Lady Gaga at all.
It's not.
It's, what's her name? Naomi Scott? Is that her name?
I think it's Naomi Scott. Michael, do you know when Smile 1 came out, Michael?
Was it around 2020?
2022.
Was it that recently?
Very recent, Michael. They
Time.
they
Has lost all meaning.
they just got on this one and said, capitalize on it.
Capitalize on it. People liked it. Benjamin, can I tell you a little secret? A dirty, filthy little secret.
Oh, go on.
I quite enjoyed the last one.
That was pretty good. It's pretty
I
good,
thought
Michael.
it was one of my more enjoyed horror films of the recent number of years. Definitely, I enjoyed it a lot more than the horror film I watched this week. But we'll get to that fucking later. But Benjamin, I really enjoyed it. I really enjoyed the central creepiness of there's someone coming at you smiling.
Ooh, look at those teeth.
Look at them. Look at everyone. Because there's nothing more creepy than someone smiling at you, Ben. Even if it's on the Lewis, if it's on the bloody bus, if it's on Dublin
bin.
bus. Get in the bin. Stop smiling at me. You're just sitting there doing your work, and one of your colleagues is smiling at you. You're like, "Oh, what's wrong? Do I have a brain hemorrhage?"
It's not even the casual kind of begrudging acknowledgement smile of, just the head tilt with it.
No.
It's toothy. It's
Yeah,
toothy.
big toothy grin.
It insists on itself, Michael, to quote Peter Griffin from Family Guy about 20 years ago.
That's fine. That's public domain now, Benjamin. Public domain. We can quote jokes from like cartoons from 20 years ago. They're public domain jokes now. Ben, I forgot what I was going to say because I was quite proud of that public domain joke. No, I actually quite like the look of this. I think there's some I mean, you know the way they're always saying it's good to see yourself represented on screen? I don't know if I'm going to be able to relate to a massive international pop icon being haunted by dream or not smile monsters.
That's a Tuesday for me, Michael, but I can see why you'd struggle.
Yeah. I have a very limited following. But yeah, it looks good. Can we get into spoilers slightly about the first one?
Go on, horse yourself in there, Michael. Go on, slip in an L spoiler.
I liked the first one. I liked the idea of it, that the monster of the week, it felt initially like it might have been akin to It Follows, which came out shortly before. That might have been 2019. That might have been earlier, though. But
horror of STDs, Michael.
The horror of STDs, Benjamin. But it felt like it might have been more akin to that, but it turned out not to be. It turned out to be a creepy, weepy thing that's out to get you in this. And I thought it had one of the more satisfying horror denouement of recent years.
Go on, tell me.
Do you remember the horror denouement of it, Benjamin?
I don't actually, Michael.
Basically, the smile is a demon gets in you. A demon gets in you and makes you do a big smile and then kill yourself.
It's a classic, isn't it? To get that demon into you.
Get that demon into you and then you do a big smile and you kill yourself. And anyone who sees you killing yourself gets the next smile infection.
Yeah, that's
so
it. It's just sexually transmitted smiles.
It leads to a horrific string of suicides. It's gross and horrible and demonic. And I really liked it. I thought it was really good and really, really interesting and spooky and scary, and the kind of thing that I'd love to see the Winchester brothers trying to deal with.
How would you deal with that as a hunter, though, Michael? That's dodgy territory. That's a real demon. That's a real tricky SOB.
Yeah, Ben,
as young Jensen Ackles would say.
Because I love, exactly. But I love the whole demon hunting oeuvre of things. My initial thought, okay, this is getting way too nerdy and way too in depth. But imagine, Benjamin, if you were a Warhammer 40,000 demon hunting inquisitor. What you would do is you would set up a bloody innocent to see it, and then the moment that the demon went in to make them kill them, then you would lock them down with all sorts of pentagrammatic wards and wrap them up and stuff and trap the demon in a host, unable
bind them to the host, Michael.
Exactly, and I think that's what the Winchesters have to do. But anyway, I don't think that's where this is going to go, but it might.
Michael, that'd be a tidy little Warhammer 40k story. The short story. Get that involved. Get that into you.
Get that into you, Jervis Johnson, the Cynthia of Warhammer.
To avoid copyright there, Michael, it's a frowning demon in this particular case. That way.
No, Benjamin, what my demon, if I was writing this story, I would do a demon that just does farts. And you'd be on the tram and there'd be someone near you farting the whole time. You're like, that's very overt farting. And you'd notice it more and more.
Would it be Nurgle farts, though? Would they be real poisonous and make your flesh fall off your bones?
No, just normal farts. Normal unpleasant farts.
Just ordinary normal farts.
Yeah, you'd be sitting beside an ordinary normal person on the Lewis. Let's say a young woman going to her 9 to 5 and she'd just do a rip-roaring fart and not acknowledge it, and you'd be like, that feels wrong in a way.
Feels like you've done something awfully wrong.
But speaking, Benjamin,
go on,
of doing something awfully wrong and paying the price for it.
Go on.
The last thing you want to ever do is star in Game of Thrones.
Yeah, Michael, if there's one thing that'll put a stake through your career, a silver bullet to your prospects, Michael.
Yes, go on.
It's probably wearing a big cape in Game of Thrones and saying, "Oh, I fucking fancy you, Dragon Lady."
Oh, yeah. Oh, from the north. So, Benjamin, anyway, Kit Harington is back. He's not going to be the Black Knight in Marvel's Blade because that film is never getting made.
It's never getting made, Michael. They just lost another director.
Yeah, so there's no need to worry about that. So Kit Harington now has plenty of free time. So he's done a werewolf film.
Absolutely, now, Michael.
Benjamin, what I'd love to ask you personally is, have you seen the trailer for the film The Beast Within, starring Kit Harington and James Cosmo?
Yeah, Michael. So, look, the vibe I got off this was... We're saying it's a monster, but really it's domestic abuse.
Oh, do you reckon?
It's got big hole in the ground vibes, and not only because the last time we saw James Cosmo on this podcast, it was in the hole in the ground where his wife was a traumatized woman who lost her son to the changelings.
Was he in that as well? He's
He
forever
was, yeah.
playing. He's forever playing kind of a old wise men in the woods, going, "Oh, this isn't very good."
Yeah, you need to stay away from these woods. Have no good in them. Or
Yeah.
if it's in Bray, you stay away from these woods. There's nothing good in them.
Yeah. James Cosmo is not that man's real name, Benjamin.
It is. It's James Cosmo.
This is his stage name. His real name is James Copeland. I'm so disappointed to learn this.
It is a bit devastating, isn't it? I didn't want to pull the rug out from under the gang, but yeah,
Absolutely
not great
devastating.
stuff.
Anyway,
Not great stuff.
you reckon this is a domestic abuse allegory, or as you say,
Yes.
allegory?
Allegory. Oh, I love an old allegory, me. But come here. Look, there's a lot of tension between Kit Harington's hubby and Ashley Cummings' wifey.
Oh,
by
yeah,
the
go
looks
on.
of it from that trailer. And then, of course, there's the innocent 10-year-old girl, Michael, in between the pair of them, who's there going, Jesus, my daddy's great. He's a bit intense sometimes, but he's great. And her mother going, yeah,
Is he though?
is he though, or is he a werewolf that I have to chain up in a cellar?
Ben, you're saying it's an allegory for an
Get it right.
allegory. You're saying an allegory for domestic abuse. I thought it was an allegory for a BDSM relationship.
Oh, it could be that as well, yeah. It could be that as well, yeah.
Don't come
yeah.
down to the basement while Mammy and Daddy are doing our activities.
Don't pay attention to the fluids all over that big wolfskin rug.
Yeah.
Get away from it now.
Benjamin, there's a couple of scenes in this where Kit Harington is wearing a big wolf skin and he's dressed all in black in the woods looking very solemn. I was like, oh, they must have saved a good bit on pre-visualization budget for this.
It turns out that Kit Harington is so good at wearing a big animal skin cloak from the years of practice that he got on Game of Thrones that they were going to CGI a bunch of stuff and they went, do you know what? He really fucking carries that.
Yeah.
That looks great.
Just stand James Cosmo next to him and we'll just get the Game of Thrones nostalgics in to watch our film The Beast Within.
Yeah. I did originally think, Michael, they were going to do the kind of classic mythological wear a wolf skin to become a werewolf that's quite popular in Danish myth, Danish and Scandinavian myth overall.
Go on.
Well, you know, you had the famous, one of the myths that arose around werewolves and lycanthropes and the like in the Scandinavian regions was that if you were to wear the pelt of an animal, you would transform at night. And Michael, famously, we had actual examples of that in a much less supernatural form, in that you used to have quite good warriors, Michael, that would wear bear skins and wolf skins. And they would go around and they'd do a bit of raiding. In fact, that myth and that mythological trope is where we get the term berserker from, Michael. It's berserker. Someone who wears the skin of a bear. Berserker. And when you look at it logically, as with all myths, Michael, it doesn't hold up too much when you look at it logically. If you are a roaming warrior that needs to kill people to make some money, you're probably going from town to town, and you would need a bloody big bear skin to keep you warm as you wander from town to town.
Yeah, he's not dangerous, he's just cold.
He's just cold, lads. So, welcome to the movie. Kit Harington feels a bit of a nip in the air.
Yeah,
And
Kit
he's,
Harington, inverted commas, it's just cold.
It's just cold. Look, it looks to be... I like the look of it, in fairness. I thought it was interesting. I like family dynamic horrors. They're quite enjoyable, Michael, as today's episode will evidence as we work our way through it.
People would think this is a horror podcast this week, Benjamin.
Michael, if it does stuff for our numbers or our reviews, we'll switch. We'll do it. We'll pivot. I will put myself through horror movie after horror movie, ladies and gentlemen. If you just give us a few crumbs of approval from strangers on the internet, that's all I want.
That's all he wants is crumbs of approval from strangers on the internet. Benjamin!
Yeah.
Speaking, though, of the classic triumvirate of horror movie monsters, we've already talked about Frankenstein and the werewolf. Now, though, Mr. Dracula's back.
Oh, Mr. Dracula's back. Or, rather, his copyright-safe knockoff, Nosferatu.
Very good.
Yeah. So, Robert Eggers, Michael, has been planning this for a while. We've gotten a few hints at it a few times. Robert Eggers, that fella who did That There Witch Over There and The Lighthouse.
And The Northman, about berserkers.
And I forgot about The Northman, Michael, completely. I never saw it. Probably should have.
It was very good, Benjamin. You know what the real horror is, though? You keep banging your mic stand.
Yeah. All right, Michael. I'll edit that out in post and you'll look like a dick.
Oh, classic bit of editing me in post to make me look like a dick. Benjamin, I don't need your help to look like a dick.
Yeah, no,
can do
you're
it.
very good at it all by yourself, Michael. Very good.
Yeah.
Do you know who
Yeah.
else is a bit of a dick?
Nosferatu.
Nosferatu, you cheeky monkey Nosferatu. Yeah, look, Robert Eggers is a bit of a maestro when it comes to a period piece, Michael, isn't he? He's pretty good.
We thoroughly, enjoyed is the wrong word. We thoroughly watched The Lighthouse.
Yeah, we thoroughly persevered.
Yeah.
Through the White House.
Oh,
The
fucking
White
horrific
House.
stuff.
The Lighthouse. I mean, technically, watching American politics, we do also persevere through the White House, so that's fine. That's
Very
pretty
good.
solid.
Yeah.
Works on a couple of levels there. But nobody does a spooky, eerie, uncomfortable period piece quite like Robert Eggers. He has a gift for stripping any hint of romanticization from the periods that he sets his stuff in. There's not a hint of hope or glory in the past for Robert Eggers. He takes the setting and he drives home the fact that, Jesus, life was a bit shite before now.
Yeah. It's not great now either. But in the
Not
past,
great now.
feckin' awful.
It was really fucking bad in the past. He did it with The Witch, where it was like, oh, that poor young one has no autonomy. She's no freedom whatsoever. And it might actually be better for her to give herself up to the devil than to stay with her prudish Puritan family.
Also, they're in this woods on their own and they're probably going to die because there's no doctors or medicine.
There's nothing good here.
No, not even any internet. They can't even watch The Strangers Chapter 1.
He did, thankfully. He didn't. That's what you meant by the past isn't great either. That's exactly what Mick is talking about when he says the present isn't great either. It's purely strangers.
Some rough aspects of the present as well.
But come here to me. The interesting thing about that is he does it again in The Lighthouse, where he's like, oh, all these young fellas going on about how it'd be great to live a life by yourself. Here's what happens when there's two lads who live by themselves. Here's what happens when you isolate yourself from everybody. It gets fucking weird, kids.
Everyone gets drunk and weird and maybe a little bit gay.
And maybe just a little bit gay.
Just maybe a little bit.
There's a reason, ladies and gentlemen, that we've had to stop doing it in the tiny room. It's just, things get weird when you lock two men in a room. It's just how it goes.
I had to keep telling my wife I was a werewolf.
What was all that banging up there? Werewolf.
Werewolf, yeah.
Werewolves.
Why does it smell like wet fur up there? Werewolf. Werewolf.
God. Kit Harington was on the podcast.
Yeah. It's only a small little fella. We got him in the tiny room, no issue.
But anyway, Michael.
Yes, go on, sorry.
Robert Eggers is back.
Oh,
with
good.
With Nosferatu. This is a spectacular little trailer, isn't it?
Very good and very exciting. I mean, so the original Nosferatu, Benjamin, to my understanding, and I've only ever seen clips of it, I haven't watched it start to finish, because, believe it or not, it's fucking silent. And I've no time for watching a silent film, Benjamin. I have to be on my phone.
He hates it, Mike. He hates it, ladies and gentlemen.
I hate it. I just want to go on my phone and surf Temu. But what was I saying? Yeah, it's Dracula. It's Dracula with some names and locations have been changed to protect the innocent.
Yeah. Look, this is a pretty big deal. Nosferatu was originally produced, Michael, as a film in 1922 by German director F.W. Murnau. And I've probably butchered that. But, yeah, it's pretty huge. It's the earliest example of a vampire film that we have. And it does shape a lot of the vampire genre after that. Especially, Michael, when we want to make vampires out to be creepy, ugly, bugly lads as opposed to suave British fuckers. You know? Like, it's the famous ball-headed, pointy buck-toothed, long-eared, pale fella with the hunch, as opposed to... Oh, Jesus. What was his name? Who's the Irish fella who played him? Jonathan Rhys-Meyers in that BBC adaptation. Where he was just a handsome... Oh, sorry, I'm upset, Mick.
That felt a little bit targeted, Ben. All those things you just said. I don't have a hunchback. I just hurt my...
best
I've got a bit
joke.
of A bit of sciatica.
It's the best joke you've ever done.
So it's just pure physical comedy, Ben. The best place for it is audio-only medium.
But yeah, so F.W. Murnau came up with this, and it was pretty popular by all accounts. But there was a bit of an issue, Michael, because he did base heaps of it on
the whole thing. It's Dracula.
Yeah.
It's just Dracula again. But, things are ever so slightly different named. But you can tell that from the cast list for old Robert Eggers' version. Because, okay, let's go through the cast list here, right? You've got Bill Skarsgård, old wobbly eyes himself, Bill Skarsgård, as Count Orlok, a.k.a. Count Dracula.
And we didn't even see.
We did, well, yeah, exactly. They're keeping him under wraps, which is the best place for Bill Skarsgård, in my opinion. We've got Nicholas Hoult and Lily Rose Depp as Thomas and Ellen Hutter, and they are clearly the Winona Ryder and what's his name?
Keanu Reeves of it all.
Keanu Reeves characters. You've got Aaron Taylor Johnson as Friedrich Harding, so he's going to be one of the other boys who are helping out.
He's Quincy.
Yeah, exactly. You've got Emma Corrin
He's the American.
you've got Emma Corrin as Anna Harding, so she's Lily, I guess.
I guess the first of the gang to be corrupted.
Exactly. You've got Ralph Ineson, which is fabulous, as Dr. William Sievers. I don't know who he's going to be. And then you've got Willem Dafoe as Professor Albin Ebenhard von Franz, who is the most... Fuck, I've forgotten the guy's name. Who's the famous Van Helsing guy you've ever seen. So it's going to be Dracula again. And watching this trailer, as fabulous as it is, you can see some of the scenes being repeated from even the Bram Stoker's Dracula from the 90s, which I'm really excited about. I think this is great.
It looks really good. It's really interesting. It's very interesting what happened to it, Michael. So, the film came out, and the original film in 1922 came out, and Bram Stoker's widow, Florence Stoker, she was like, absolutely fucking not. I'm not getting a penny off this, so it's not staying. And she took F.W. Murnau and the production company to court. And back in the day, Michael, court was a bit more serious back then. You couldn't get away with your fair uses and stuff like that. And basically, if you had more money, you could drive the case which way you wanted. You would have had me oust from this podcast years ago. If it was around 1910.
Yeah.
It would have been all yours.
I would have just done some sort of slur against you, and that would have got you out.
Yeah, you probably would have said I enjoyed long walks in the park, and the jury would have inferred from there that I was some kind of prideful homosexual, I'd imagine.
Or some sort of other not that we consider homosexuals deviants, but in the 1910s we probably would have.
You said that, buddy, not me.
Yeah, it would have been the 1910s.
I would like to point out, ladies and gentlemen,
We're less
in
developed.
no way, shape or form do we find homosexuals to be deviants.
Unless they're also deviants.
Unless they're bad homosexuals.
No, Ben, you're digging down. Dig up. That's a public domain joke from The Simpsons 20 years ago. I'm allowed to.
Oh, is it? Shit. Okay. But anyway, she won, and all the copies of the film were ordered destroyed, and that's kind of made it into a very much sought after gem of a thing when you can find a copy these days. It's interesting that you said Willem Dafoe, Michael, because we've seen Willem Dafoe as Nosferatu before.
No, we haven't.
Yes, we have.
I'd remember that.
I think he was. He not? No, hang on.
What was he a Nosferatu in?
Yeah, he was Nosferatu in the 80s, Michael.
Willem Dafoe was a Nosferatu in the 80s?
Yeah, absolutely. He was called in Shadow of the Vampire.
Are you thinking of Spider-Man 2, Benjamin? Because he was the Green Goblin in that.
He was, and he was very spooky in that as well, Michael. But he was also in Shadow of the Vampire. It wasn't the 80s, though. Sorry, I fucked that royally, Michael. 2000s.
It was last year. It was Sin's Smile.
John Malkovich and Willem Dafoe. And John Malkovich plays a Nosferatu. Or, Willem Dafoe plays a Nosferatu.
A Nosferatu.
A Nosferatu.
Get out of here.
Yeah, he's a very negative Nosferatu, so whenever you ask him to do something, he says, no.
Very good.
Yeah, so this, Michael, again, is dripping with horror. I thought the most phenomenal shot of this, Michael, is where they open the door and Bill Skarsgård's bloody Nosferatu is there with two wolves just standing in shadow, and I was like, oh, very good. Very ominous.
Very excited about this. This is the most exciting trailer of the bunch that we got. Now, it'll be a fucking miserable experience, Ben. We probably won't even go to see it in the cinema because, God, wear the arse off you sitting through a Robert Eggers film in the cinema.
Yeah, there's only so many pairs of breeches I can change into without someone taking notice, Michael. So, just to avoid that, we'll have to really stay away. But I tell you, Michael, I tell you what else makes you change your breeches all the time.
Go on.
A notable shift in life and situ when someone you don't want has to come and live with you and you're obligated through emotion, fealty, and perhaps caring about another person to take in their elderly, possibly very mentally ill relative.
Oh, great stuff. The old mother-in-law is coming to stay, is she?
Yeah, she is indeed. Now, Michael, we got a trailer this week for The Front Room from A24. And I need to talk to you about something, Michael.
Go on.
Brandy's back.
Brandy's back big time, Benjamin. Not only is she back in Ariana Grande's latest song, The Boy Is Mine, but she's also back in acting.
Back in acting, Michael. We haven't seen her in a horror flick since Scream 2?
Was she in Scream 2?
I don't know.
It's been a while.
It's been a while. It's something like 20 years, 25 years or so.
Benjamin, I think she has been acting, though, hasn't she? She's just been in, Hallmark movies and stuff.
I'm sorry, Michael. We've made a huge error there. She was in the 1998 classic I Still Know What You Did Last Summer.
That's what it was. The famous sequel to the classic I Know What You Did Last Summer.
Yeah, and then she famously starred in Moesha, which was the very popular show on Nickelodeon, I think, from 1996 to 2001.
Very good. Anyway, she's in this. She's the star.
She's the star. She's playing Belinda.
That's a funny name. I just, Belinda's a funny name. Is it funnier for Irish people than other people? I don't know why. I just find Belinda to be the funniest name.
It's probably because we wouldn't come across it very often, Michael, I'd imagine.
You would, though.
Would you?
Well, you maybe would have in the old days, Benjamin. Maybe you're too young.
I mean, fingers crossed I'm too young, Michael. That's what I'd like. I'd look for anything these days, Michael.
Be a nice change for you anyway. Ben, anyway, look, shut up for a second. Let's stop riffing about Brandy and talk about the film.
Shan't.
All right, okay. You keep riffing about Brandy.
I need to talk to you about something else, Michael, and it's very important.
Go on.
This is clearly set somewhat in the south, Michael. The creepy mother-in-law of this seems to be a southern kind of Baptist. She's a big old religious but Michael, from the title to the setting to the heavy Catholic imagery, they could have just set this in Bray.
They could have set it in Bray any day of the week.
Michael, it's called The Front Room, for Christ's sake. There's not a home in the fine rural areas of this country that doesn't call the good room the front room.
Yeah,
it's true.
Front room. That's what it is. That's where you.
And it's the same thing. It's leaning on that almost obsession that a certain generation has with keeping a good room at the front of the house for the guests.
Go on.
And I think it's hinting at the near demonic level of possession that mothers or fathers, depending on the family dynamic, place over that room and the kind of domineering attitude they assert to living in the home. Because, Michael, if the woman in this trailer was my mother-in-law, I'd be out of there. I'd be gone.
You'd be gone, would you?
Be gone. Demon mother-in-law, no spank you. Goodbye.
Thank you, no. Thank you, no, thank you. Benjamin, this is directed by the other two Eggers brothers. It's a great week in the Eggers house.
The Eggers are having a great time. Max and Sam Eggers, Michael, are directing this one.
Yeah.
I think they are a relation to Robert
They
Eggers.
are, yeah.
They are.
Yeah. I'm not just guessing there.
So this is A24's latest offering. And as I said, it could have been set in Ireland. And I say that as a joke for our weekly podcast on pop culture, Michael. But also, genuinely could have. This is steeped, Michael, in Catholic guilt imagery and shame imagery and old-fashioned smothering tradition.
I'd like to hear more.
Well, we get a few hints of it, Michael, as we go through. So the first thing we find out is that Brandy is quite happy up until she finds out that her father-in-law has passed away and her hubby in the trailer has to take in his creepy mother. And she does it because, it's the man she loves, and that's what you do when your in-laws start to get to a certain age and you've no real choice in the matter, and that's just what you do. But for her, there does seem to be a supernatural element at play, and it has one of my favorite kind of tropes for heavy Catholicism or heavy Christianity, which is a demon in angel's clothing. I love that. I love when a character in a movie or a TV show thinks that God is speaking to them or that an angel is speaking to them. And in the end, Michael, the old the old holy rug is pulled out from under them. And it was a devil all along.
Benjamin, it was so obviously a vampire. When everyone was like, the angel is going to come to the mass at midnight and he's going to give us all his blood. I was like, lads, that's a fucking vampire.
That's a fucking vampire. Good example, though, Michael. Midnight Gospel. Great shout.
Midnight mass?
Midnight Mass. Midnight Gospel is a very strange podcast that you can check out. But Midnight Mass, Michael, you're spot on. The old Mike Flanagan gig. This has some Mike Flanagan vibes to it. But anyway, Michael, it looks thoroughly creepy. It's got all my favourite things to it. Deep southern racism masquerading as politeness. A great undermining of modern generations by older generations that still think they have something to contribute. Delicious. Delicious across the board, Michael. This gets very intense. Again, another very good trailer, Michael. I feel like this week was a great week for trailers. Some very well edited, some very tightly put together, strongly visual trailers. Even Smile 2 had some phenomenal horror visuals in it. That creepy moment where the whole dance troupe is crawling its way up the hallway towards her. Great stuff.
Yeah, I like that scene in Smile 2 where the little girl is just standing in front of her and she signs her t-shirt and the little girl never asks her to do it or anything. She's just like...
No.
I'll sign it. Great, yeah. Look, man, the smorgasbord, as the Eggers family probably say, because
Or Bill Skarsgård.
yeah, better, yes, less vaguely Scandinavian, more directly Scandinavian. It's a smorgasbord of horror trailers because we're exactly 4 months from Halloween. So
4 months from Halloween.
The best time of year to get excited about horror is the hottest day of the year when we're both in tiny rooms sweating balls,
as the kids would say. But Michael, what I'm most excited to see about the front room starring Brandy is what it all turns out to be. Is it her anxiety made manifest by the fact that she now has to deal with this elderly, mentally incapacitated woman? Is it an allegory or an allegory, as we'd say?
Yeah. Whoa, you'd say. I know the
As
right
I'd say, sorry. Yeah. As I'd say,
Yeah.
Benjamin, who's definitely not been AI edited into this to say allegory. But come here to me.
allegory, yeah.
Is it her fear that a mother would undermine her son's affection for her? Is it dealing with the closeted racism of older generations? Is it... You know, there's a lot of interesting things happening here.
Is it demons?
And it has that... Is it demons? Is it just good old-fashioned demons?
Is it just demons? Yeah.
And my favourite bit about it is, Michael, it has that classic... Now, I have to phrase this carefully. It has...
Yeah.
black vindication in the style of Jordan Peele.
Oh, go on.
So it has unapologetic black anger.
Yeah.
It has vindication for the black character, because from the trailer, this woman is just a horrible old demonically possessed cow.
Yeah, yeah.
And it has her asserting her own identity. We see it in the very last scene where she's over the old woman saying, "My name is Belinda." Belinda, as in not Belinder, because that's what the racist old southern lady calls her, Belinder. It's interesting. It has that asserted black identity in the face of old-timey racism, and I like it. I like that kind of thing.
It has a black character going, "I told you."
Yeah, I fucking told you. I also love the deceptive old cow trope. You know, like she's fallen over and it's like, "Oh, you pushed me over," and then smiling as her son carries her out of the room. Awful stuff. Very strong visuals again. Yeah. There's a few different things. There's classic Renaissance paintings being thrown up in scenes. There's the Pieta, the famous, I think it's a Michelangelo sculpture. I could be wrong there. That's mimicked at one point where the son is lying across the mother-in-law. Very strong visuals, Michael. Some Southern Gothic, old-timey Baptist racism horror.
Fabulous, Benjamin. We could check who sculpted that very famous sculpture because a friend of mine actually studied art in Florence. Will I just get him on the? Will I get him on the line there?
Yeah.
Hold on a second. It was fucking you, Ben.
Yeah, it was me. Yeah. Almost, Michael.
Yeah.
Almost.
Yeah.
As if I was maybe.
Yeah.
Just keeping in the flow, because it is, of course, Michelangelo.
Yeah, you weren't paying attention. Ben, anyway, speaking of the true horror, though, there's nothing... You were saying to me the other day that there's nothing you love more. There's nothing you love more than celebrities putting their name to comic books.
Oh, it's great stuff altogether, Michael. I absolutely love it. It's definitely the best thing going. I'm going to have
remember
to let
the-
the cat in here, Michael. So you spin your wheels on the
Let her
very
in,
interesting thing
Benjamin.
you brought to my attention.
Let her in to me. Let her in. Ben, I remember in the early 2000s that you phoned me up, and now bearing in mind you were only 9, you phoned me up and you said, Mick, come here to me. This Gerard Way fella is a celebrity and he's trying to do a comic. Will you come and pick at Forbidden Planet with me? And I said, I'm actually in college, so I can't. I'm too busy being an adult.
Also, you're a child.
Yeah. Also, you're 9. Fuck off. So you hate celebrities doing comics then, famously. So you were very upset to hear that your favourite actor, the voice of Olaf himself, Josh Gad, has done a big team up with Dark Horse Comics to do The Writer, a H.P. Lovecraft, ancient demonic evil-esque, Jewish folklore-inspired roller coaster of a thing.
Yeah. So you sent me this and said, "Here, just have a look at that comic there." You gave me no context, Michael.
Yeah,
None.
no context whatsoever.
And the first thing I went is, "Oh no, a celebrity comic book writer. Oh no."
Oh no, you don't like it. The hubris.
And Michael, this is weird.
It's very unpolished. Let's put it that way.
It's a rough cut.
It's a bit of a rough cut, isn't it?
And I'm not certain we could say it's an uncut gem, Michael. I don't. It's messy.
Yeah. Look, a lot happens. A lot happens.
A
in
lot,
20
Michael.
A lot happens in a 22-page comic book. So a lot of it we're left to infer from a line or two or a single panel, which in some ways is good, but in other ways it's like, whoa, slow yourself down there, comic book. So the character Josh Gad, I'm sure he has a character name, but it's irrelevant because it's the character Josh Gad.
It's
is
Stan
a writer.
Stiegel for what it's worth.
It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter what it is. It's the character Josh Gad. And he's a writer. I don't know if he's a comic book writer or a novel writer. I don't know if they establish what it is.
They don't. I didn't quite catch it. I was too blown away by what was going on. Like, so many swastikas.
There's a lot of swastikas in this.
What the hell?
Yeah.
I can't even turn this into a reel because I've said the word swastika.
Yeah, no, there's too many swastikas in this to turn it into a big reel for TikTok. So he is a Jewish comic book or a Jewish writer whose father was also a Jewish writer and somehow came into the possession of the Ring of Solomon.
Which is a big deal, Michael, if you're into your mythology.
Go on.
The Ring of Solomon is a famous spirit summoning ring from mythology.
Yeah.
And it's a good MacGuffin if you're looking for a few different things. Sometimes it's called the Seal of Solomon, Michael.
Go on.
And then in certain translations, it's known as the Ring of Solomon. But it's the little design that we see Stan Stiegel or Josh Gad, just Josh Gad, as a comic book man.
Gad.
It's the symbol that you see on the ring he's wearing. That's the Seal of Solomon. And then that's tied to the Ring of Solomon, which is apparently what a famous ring in Hebrew Islamic mythology wore. King Solomon, famously, from the Bible.
The Bible, yeah, we've all heard him. Very smart.
And apparently, Michael, it gave him great power over jinn, the spirits of the earth and air.
Yeah.
Earth, fire, and air, if you're very specific. But so somehow Josh Gad's found that.
Somehow. So yeah, that's pretty much what the comic addresses it with. So somehow Josh Gad's found that anyway. And Nazis are here. So he's going to use Jewish-themed superpowers to fight them.
And he's a golem?
Well, because golems, of course, are a very big part of Jewish mythology.
Huge, Michael. Huge. In fact,
Yes, go on.
I've prepared for just this occasion.
Oh, very good.
Yeah. So, again, very biblical, Hebrew-based kind of thing, but not in this. So he transforms into essentially a Jewish thing, except that the thing is Jewish. Ben Grimm is Jewish. So I take that back, ladies and gentlemen. He just transforms into the thing. Yeah. So there's a monster. There's a monster man. To the looks of it, a homunculi, Michael.
A golem,
I reckon.
Yeah, go on.
Did you know you can control the slideshow from the thing we're presenting it in, Michael? That's fab. Look at that.
That's great. You can click any of those buttons anytime you want.
That's mad. Anyway, come here.
What?
Come here to me.
What?
In the original Bible, Michael.
The original
And if
Bible.
you
Yes.
In the original Bible, Michael, before Trump got his hands on it.
Yeah, before the
Trump edition.
reboot. Yeah. Before the
the
1997 reboot. Yeah.
Golem is just a phrase in the Bible that means my unshaped form.
Okay.
And in some versions of it, Michael, in the Hebrew Bible,
Yeah, go on.
Adam is referred to as a golem. He was a being without a soul, essentially. So Adam is the first kind of thing to do that. But then it gets all muckily-ducklied up in the medieval period, Michael, those famous dark ages where we took everything and kind of mushed it together to see what had happened. And then it became kind of a mythological concept out of there. And the most famous example, I guess, is the legend that's told in the Czech Republic, Michael, of the Golem of Prague. Or I suppose the Golem of Praha, if you're looking to be not Western and colonial. So yeah,
Prague is Central Europe, though, Ben. They're part of it. They're in on it.
They're part of colonialism.
Yeah,
We're all
they're in on
guilty.
it.
We're all guilty.
Especially-
So Rabbi Judah Loe ben Bezalel.
Don't know.
Probably got that wrong, ladies and gentlemen. He was a 16th century rabbi, and apparently, in order to defend the Jews under his care, he created a golem, and that golem became the protector of the Jewish community.
And
From
go on, sorry.
No, go ahead.
Well, that's what Josh Gad does in this.
That's what Josh Gad does in this. He's a famous bloody golem that looks after the Jewish community.
Yeah, from people with swastika tattoos everywhere. Everyone's just covered in swastika tattoos.
Everyone just got swastikas.
Benjamin, I was in the gym once with a man, and he seemed like a perfectly reasonable man. And we went to the showers afterwards, as we do. He took off his shirt to have a shower, and he had a big swastika tattoo. And I have never been more shocked and appalled in my entire life.
Was he a big fan of Tibetan meditation?
No.
No,
He was a big fan,
just
Benjamin, of racism.
terrible fucking stuff.
That was his last day in that gym, let me tell you. Anyway, Ben, he gets a lot of his other powers. He gets basically, in a very short comic book, he gets every Jewish superpower you can possibly imagine, including...
And a few that you couldn't.
Yeah, including what I think is one of the most mental scenes in a comic book this year, at the very least, where they're in a high-speed chase. He eats a bit of the magic paper that gives him Jewish-themed superpowers. This is not an exaggeration. And his spirit is propelled out of the car and guided by the spirits of the Holocaust victims. And I said to myself, "Whoo, holy moly. Wow.
Days, lads.
That's where we're going. It took 3 of you to write this, did it?"
Like, Jesus. Read the room as well. Like, this is not the time in global politics to be pushing a Zionist save the people narrative.
Oh, is that that's what you took from it? I didn't get that at all. I just thought it was absolutely mad that...
I'm notably radicalized, though. Michael.
You're very radicalized by this whole anti-Zionism thing. But I just thought, holy moly, what a bizarre thing to happen. Because up to this point, he's had, like, Jewish biblical themed superpowers, like becoming a golem and having the Sword of Solomon.
Yeah.
But then he gets lifted bodily out of a speeding car by the spirits of Holocaust victims. Unbelievable.
It's weird, Michael.
Mad. Anyway, weird comic. A lot happens. I would argue too much happens.
Michael, speaking of too many things happening,
Yes, go on.
people are obviously too busy to leave us a review wherever they listen. I'm doing it twice, Michael.
Very good.
Got it. But ladies and gentlemen, do a little you time. Do a little self-care. And while you're at it, do a little bit of Mick and Ben care. And hop on over wherever you're listening, be it Apple Podcasts, be it Spotify, preferably Spotify, ladies and gentlemen. But give us a little follow. Go on up there, give us a little follow, then leave us a review. You can also leave us comments, ladies and gentlemen, on Spotify. You can write to us on Spotify. What? I hear you say. What dreams may come, Michael, as they say. Go down there and give us a piece of your mind. You can be mean to us. It's grand. Don't worry about it. Just get engaging with us as much as you can.
The slideshow's still on Nosferatu, Ben, so I don't know where we're going.
Now, Michael, come on. You know exactly where we're going. Michael, in the pit of things that had too many things going on this week. I've lost control of my mouse, Michael. Where am I going? The slideshow's all over the place, ladies and gentlemen. The podcast's over for this week. It's all over.
All right. Are you skipping the boys, Ben?
No, we're not skipping the boys. Michael, you and I watched
Yes.
episode 4 of season 4 of The Boys, and fuck me, it was a good one.
Did you reckon? It's been very divisive, though, in terms of audience score and viewership.
It has, Michael. It has. Many people arguing, as many people should, too many things happened in this episode.
Is that what you reckon it is? That's not the vibe I'm getting. The vibe I'm getting is this used to be more of an allegory, and now it's just about American politics.
Funnily enough, Michael, that's exactly what my good lady friend said to me when we were watching it. She turned around to me, she said, this is very close to the bone these days, isn't it?
Isn't it?
Like,
yeah, it's like,
Yeah.
this used to be an allegory. Now it's just, here's Trump supporters, here's the goodies, and now watch them. Oh, look, the goodies have gone too far, so they're going to have to reel it back. I don't know. I
Yeah,
think it's
look.
Go on.
No, go on, keep going.
No. Well, okay. Here's what I was going to say. One of the things that I really enjoyed about this week's episode was they took Homelander out of that storyline for an episode, and they let him Homelander about the place. And the Homelander scenes were an absolute return to form for Anthony Starr giving an incredible performance, for really making a Homelander. Remember last week, Benjamin, I said Homelander's not scary anymore.
Oh.
But they really brought back the terror of being in the room with Homelander and his... Remember last week's episode where they had the woman who had given some information to Starlight and he promised he wouldn't hurt her, and then she told them that she did tell Starlight something, and then he zapped her in the head straight away. I was watching that scene going, that's not scary, because a man with a gun could have done that.
Yeah.
And if a man with a gun can do it, it's not scary. I mean, in real life, it would be, obviously, being held hostage. But that missed the point of what's scary about Homelander. Like, that could have just been an unhinged person with a gun saying, I promise I won't shoot you, and then shooting you. But this week's episode was a much better use of the terror of that character. Especially that bit where he said, get in the bloody kiln.
Yeah. The bloody kiln. Michael, the terror of the Homelander, to quote Dennis Reynolds from It's Always Sunny, is the implication. The terror of the Homelander. First of all, I think the terror of the Homelander cannot be done without Anthony Starr. Fuck me. I never want to meet that man in real life because I think there's a lot more in Anthony Starr than there is. I think there's a lot more Anthony Starr in Homelander than we might realise. Fuck me, that man has a presence, Michael. For a man who's as short as I am, because Anthony Starr is only 5'8".
Is he only a little fella as well?
He's only a little fella.
Okay.
Michael, he's fucking terrifying.
Yeah, he's doing a very good job because he's only a little fella and he's quite slight as well.
He's quite slight. He's got his muscle suit, but it's not what does it, Michael. It's the mania he carries around with him. And he has this split-second temper. And he knows how to hold tension in a sentence. His facial expressions, Michael, are some of the most menacing fucking micro-expressions I've ever seen in my life. I think my favourite thing about this episode, Michael, is they made, if only for a second, if only for a glimmer, they made me give a shit about Homelander as a character. And I will not forgive them for that. Because I was so used to just being like, oh, Homelander's the fucking worst. And I never thought, Michael, in my days of reading The Boys or otherwise, because I've never given a shit about his origin as a character. This is the only time where I went, oh, poor Homelander. And I went, oh, you fucking shits. Oh, you bastards. Oh, you fucks. You got me.
Yeah, you sneakers.
They got me pretty good, Michael, because I think one of the most interesting things about this is the great prevalent theme of this episode is that monsters make monsters. And there was a strange... I transitioned so quickly, Michael, from being someone who felt the fear of the people in the room and sympathized with it, because, you know, you can really put yourself in the shoes. There's some phenomenal acting, both from side characters, Michael, and from the main cast themselves. But you feel the fear and the walking on eggshells that Homelander creates in his wake. You feel it, and it's phenomenal. And even when a character, Michael, tries to stand up to Homelander, and we won't do spoilers here, we will in a second, but a character like Barbara, who thinks she has the edge on Homelander, there's a phenomenal bit of work in transitioning from, God, I hope those people get out of there alive. Fuck them. It's fucking phenomenal. And I still think Homelander's a monster. For the sake of clarity, he's a monster, unrepentant. but he's not a monster without a foundation. And that's the interesting thing about this episode for me. In terms of other parts of the episode, you know, I think other parts of it were a bit weaker. I'm not sure I'm enjoying Frenchie's arc at the moment.
That's because your homophobia, though, Ben, I think.
No, I actually really enjoy those scenes. And we'll talk about that off air, Michael.
It's your favourite bits, yeah.
Those are my favourite bits because fucking hell. I mean, Tomer Capone, hey? Am I right? Huh?
I don't know
And
who that is. That Colin? Okay.
That's Frenchie's actor, yeah. And
Yeah,
Colin, get out of here, you dishy
Great
bastard, you. Get the fuck out of here. But anyway,
What?
what's interesting there, Michael, is like his arc is awful. And I think they're spreading that idea that, you know, monsters are real people with feelings and motivations and blah, blah, blah. And they are redeemable in some cases and not in others. But it's hard. It was hard to either not root for Homelander a little bit in that episode, but also it was hard to root for Frenchie in that episode because
he's the baddie.
He's the baddie. All right, fair enough. You feel very guilty about murdering a man's entire family. Maybe don't sleep with him on and off for 3 months. Maybe don't.
Yeah, he's
Maybe
the baddie.
don't.
Benjamin.
Yeah.
I thought there was one good bit of this outside of the Homelander stuff.
Mhm.
And it was probably a little bit accidental. I don't know how much real life played into it. But Erin Moriarty, specifically Erin Moriarty, who plays Annie/Starlight, her delivery of the line, "They got my medical records," with the hassle that actress has been having online for the last year. I don't know if that played into the writing of that line. And I know it's about having a secret abortion rather than all of the alleged surgery she's had. But it did strike a bit of a chord, that close-up on her face and the look of disappointment and anger and upset.
Shame and
people
fury.
getting
Like, there
access.
was a lot going on.
That was
Yeah.
I thought that was good, and then the rage that she attacked Firecracker with was good too. But again, that whole dichotomy of they set up the Trump rally-esque show across the
Yeah.
road, and take or leave. It's not doing anything for me. It's not pushing any of my buttons.
It's probably a bit divorced from our reality, Michael. Do you know what I mean? Like, it's not the world we live in day to day. I can imagine it resonates and pisses off Americans in equal measure because I think, I really do think Eric Kripke and his team has really hammered down on the fact that Homelander is in no way to be supported. He is not right. And he's not this fucking ultra-American ubermensch that you're all fucking pitching him to be occasionally. But as we've said before, Michael, on this very podcast, media literacy is dead.
The other thing is
Not
Karen
happening.
Fukuhara is way too pretty to be the female.
Ludicrously.
Ludicrous. It's
so.
ludicrous. She gets blown
Ludicrous,
up
man.
and like chopped in half, and then in the next scene she has perfect makeup and a big smile. It's like in the boys comic, and don't read it, it's rubbish. But in the boys comic,
Rubbish.
and like the comic book is obviously diverged a lot from that. But the female, which is the name of her character in the comic, is borderline feral.
Yeah, she doesn't talk. She doesn't talk not because she has PTSD. She doesn't talk because
Yeah.
she doesn't talk because she's too
Yeah,
busy
she's
ripping
not-
your throat out.
Yeah, she's not sending cute texts and making sure her makeup is perfect after she gets blown up with bazookas.
No,
She gets blown up with a
definitely not.
bazooka in this. There's a fucking hilarious scene. She gets shot with a bazooka and horribly bisected. And
Yeah.
there's bits of her guts all over the floor. And in the next scene, she has healed perfectly, but obviously her clothes are still damaged. So now she has a belly top. And I was like, oh,
now
lads,
she's
come on.
midriff.
A bit of midriff
yeah.
showing. That's the worst outcome from getting hit with a bazooka. She's got a bit of midriff showing. Her makeup's still fine though, and her hair's lovely.
Yeah, I mean, she's still looking great. But look,
Ridiculous.
I do think the aim of this episode was everybody has a little bit of a monster inside of them, some more than others, because you know it turns out that
Billy
it's not
Butcher.
working. Turns out that Billy Butcher has an actual monster inside him.
Yeah, Venom. He's got a Venom.
Do you know, funnily enough, Michael, a lot of people are like, oh, he's a Venom. He's like, I don't think he is, lads. I think, do you remember the one scene I regret reading all the scenes from The Boys, but
Which
there's
don't
a
read it.
small arc, Michael, about a giant tapeworm.
Yeah.
Do you remember?
Yeah.
I have a feeling that what Butcher has inside him is a giant tapeworm
Maybe.
or some such. Do you know what I mean? because of the wriggling. The wriggling it's too worm-like, Michael. I can't deal with it. But I do think what we got in that bunker, in that room, is a fucking masterclass in tension and actual mania. Like, I think I will never masturbate ever again. I'm never going to do it. I'm taking the vow, ladies and gentlemen, because that's a horrific scene. And at the same time, I remember thinking of Marty, the guy who is about to die in this. And full spoilers here, ladies and gentlemen. I remember thinking, you absolute piece of shit for mocking that poor child at the time. Because it's very hard to imagine Homelander as a child, because you're told so often that he was never a real child. It's a real masterclass in playing with audience expectation and established audience opinion of a character. Because one of my favourite things is, and I'm going to come back to Barbara because I mentioned I would, and spoilers now, ladies and gentlemen, for The Boys episode 4, season 4, if you don't want to go on. The worst thing about Barbara is you think she's going to be set up to play one of the classic The Boys smug characters, like Mallory, like Butcher, like Jeffrey Dean Morgan to some degree this season. You know, you think she's going to walk away and, like Mr. Edgar, she's going to give Homelander a little verbal spanking and be like, you were always a monster. But in this particular case, Michael, it doesn't hold water, because what they were doing to him was torturing him day in, day out. And her excuse is they're just doing their jobs. And you're like, no.
No use. I'm going to rip all these people apart in front of you and give you PTSD.
Absolutely
Benjamin,
not, Barb.
what are you talking? Jeffrey Dean Morgan's not in this.
He is, yeah.
No, he's not.
He's Joe Kessler.
There hasn't been a character called Joe Kessler in this, man. I think you've been hallucinating.
Like season something of Grey's Anatomy?
Yeah, no, that's the prevailing fan theory, Ben, that Joe Kessler... That
Oh,
Jeffrey
he's
Dean
not
Morgan's
there
character,
at
he's not
all,
there
is it?
at
Get out
all.
of there.
Imagine he's another one of the hallucinations.
Oh, that could be it.
Yeah. You see?
Oh,
Benjamin.
maybe the symbiote is Jeffrey Dean Morgan.
Exactly, or Tom Hardy. Benjamin, though, speaking of being trapped in a room with terrifying people, sometimes it doesn't matter if they have superpowers or not. They could just be normal people and it could be just as bad.
Yeah, hell is other people, my friend. Hell is other people. I'm done. That's the episode.
That's it. That's all you have to say. Right, well, we've got fucking 15 minutes left to fill. You better start flapping those lips.
No, Michael. It was actually down to 2 trailers this week that really drove this point home for me, Michael. One was The Front Room, which is playing with toxic family dynamics and inherited family, that kind of thing. And the other is Smile. And you touched upon it a little bit at the start of this episode, Michael, where you talked about there's nothing more uncomfortable than when someone is smiling at you and there's an expectation that you smile.
I would argue IBS is more uncomfortable.
Yes, as a long-term sufferer myself, Michael, 100% agree.
Yeah.
IBS is the worst.
Very painful.
Yeah. Ladies and gentlemen, if you or anyone you know has been affected by IBS, you can hop up on the Discord down below and let us know. But don't disclose anything personal or medical. We're not doctors.
We're not doctors. Well, some of us are doctors of popular culture. Not us, but people we know.
People we know are, but not us.
Not us, no.
Very importantly, not us.
Benjamin, you said to me we're going to talk about hell as other people. So I made a terrible mistake and I watched The Strangers Chapter 1.
Oh dear.
Now, are you aware of the original film The Strangers, Benjamin? I know you thought I was going to say, are you aware of The Power of Shadows? But I didn't. I said, are you aware of The Strangers, the original film The Strangers?
I have a vague recollection. It's an ugly buggly home invasion with lads in masks, isn't it?
Exactly. Yeah, it's a classic ugly buggly home invasion. You've got Liv Tyler and some fella, and they're at home, and someone knocks at the door in a weird mask, and they say, is Tamara here? And I say, it's Tamara. What the fuck, Tamara?
Yeah, it's Tamara.
Yeah, what is this, an
It's Tamara.
allegory? And anyways, they break in and they torture them and they stab them to death. And you never find out why these 3 weird mask-wearing weirdos break in and torture and kill these 2 innocent people at home. And it has one of the most thrilling and chilling kind of final lines in horror cinema, where when Liv Tyler is dying at the end, she says, why did you do... Is it Liv Tyler? It is Liv Tyler, isn't it?
I think it is Liv Tyler.
Yeah, it isn't it? And she says, why did you do this? And the woman in the mask says, because you were home. Exactly, Benjamin. And I know people who won't watch this genre of films. They won't watch. They'll happily watch Freddy Krueger taking your guts out and stringing you up. They'll watch Jason Myers chasing you through any sort of haunted amusement park and chopping you into little bits. But as soon as it's normal people who are torturing and killing you for no reason they can tell, it's like, no, can't watch that, is unwatchable. I cannot deal with that.
I'm one of those people, Michael. I fucking hate that shit.
So anyway, I watched The Strangers Chapter 1, which I thought was going to be a prequel, and I think we all thought it was going to be a prequel. But it's not a prequel, Benjamin. It's from director Rennie Harlin.
Who's that?
Rennie Harlin, Benjamin. You might know him from doing... You look up Rennie Harlin there, because he has done some incredibly famous films. And I'm not going to tell you, because you're going to look at them and go, no way, Rennie Harlin did that? And this is a current film, by the way. This is in cinemas now.
Rennie Harlin moved to China at some point.
Are you on his Wikipedia page?
Yeah, I'm going through.
So anyway, Benjamin, it has
Gina
Madeline
Davis. He was married,
to Gina Davis. He was.
Yeah, Gina Davis.
And Gina Davis said, "Oi, listen now, Rennie Harlin, mate. I want a divorce."
Michael Ryan, but Die Hard 2.
Die Hard 2. He did Die Hard 2. So
The Long Kiss Goodnight, Michael.
Benjamin, this film is from a guy who knows how to do films. Deep Blue Sea.
Deep Blue Sea.
Deep Blue Sea.
Ladies and gentlemen, we did not rehearse that. That was completely spontaneous. Excellent. Excellent stuff from both of your favourite co-hosts.
Gina Davis. Anyway, this is a guy who knows how to do films. But it's got Madeleine Petsch. Benjamin, you might remember her from being the red-haired one from out of Riverdale.
Oh, yeah.
And it's got Froy Gutierrez, Benjamin, who you might remember from being in the 4th and final season of Teen Wolf.
I do not.
No, neither did I. And it stars these two, Benjamin, as two normal people. They're just a normal young couple who are...
Normal, ordinary men.
Just normal, ordinary, innocent couple who are on a 3-day road trip across America, Benjamin. And they're in the part of America that looks most like Bratislava, because that's where this was made. But this film completely misses the point of the horror in the mundane. Because, first of all, the two leads look like fey creatures from another realm. They're like magazine perfume ads come to life. They're not like two normal people on a 3-day road trip where they're getting a bit smelly and the scruff is starting to go and are you going to stay in that t-shirt? They look like Calvin Klein models, the pair of them. And they arrive in this situation. And every aspect of these are 3 normal people who've chosen these two at random to inflict terror and pain upon them is completely missed by the script. I don't necessarily blame the overly attractive actors, but the script kind of misses the point. So, for example, there's scenes where Maya, the female lead, she's playing the piano alone in an Airbnb in the woods at night after people have been banging on the door and trying to frighten them. And she's sitting there...
Bitch.
Yeah, it's like, come on, get your act together. She's had a dubious cigarette, Benjamin. So maybe that's why she's too chilled out. So it's got that kind of
even
like...
spookier. I know,
Yeah.
I'll strum the piano gently.
I'll strum the piano. I'll have a dubious cigarette and then I'll strum the piano. So she's playing the piano, Benjamin. That's why it's called a doobie, Ben. It's short for dubious cigarette.
Dubious. Is that what it is?
Yeah. So she's playing the piano and we're looking at her face on, right? And we can see behind her and there's no one behind her. Right? And then the camera pans around her as she's playing the piano. And of her then, we can see a mirror so we can see behind her. And one of the killers is sitting in the chair less than 2 or 3 foot away from her. She turns around and he's gone.
Aww.
And great stuff. Great horror tropes. But the whole point of this is they are supposed to just be normal people who are doing this. And they miss that point and have them look and act like supernatural entities. Do you get where I'm coming from? Like
yeah,
that
it loses
scene,
the edge.
That scene does not frighten the character Maya. That scene is designed to frighten the viewer, Mick and Ben. And it loses that fear of the mundane, that these are just people and they're here and they want to hurt us and we don't understand why. It would be much more terrifying to just have the guy standing calmly there when she turns around. Rather than this, oh, something spooky's happening, but she can't see it.
What if it's a ghost?
What if? But exactly, they might as well be ghosts or demons or whatever.
The worst.
So it loses what you're talking about, which is the hell is other people, the horror of the mundanity.
The horror of mundanity, Michael. It has become a bit of a bread and butter trope for a few of the big picture houses, as my grandfather used to say, Michael.
Yes, go on.
This phrase, hell is other people, by the way, ladies and gentlemen, if you're into your existential French philosophy, and not many people are, nor should you be. It's a load of waffle. No. But come here. I'm going to give you two pronunciations now of a famous fellow from France, Michael. If you're fancy and you want to impress somebody in a bar, he's Jean-Paul Sartre.
Yeah, go on.
Okay.
I'm not fancy though, Ben. I'm a normal man.
You're a normal man in an Irish pub, and you'll say, here, did you ever hear of No Exit, the Playboy Sartre, did you?
Jean-Paul Sartre.
John Paul said in his play
on.
No Exit, Michael. In 1944, it's about three characters who are trapped in a room together. And you're never told what's happening, why they're trapped in the room. None of that's important, Michael. The horror of that particular play is the existential dread of having to deal with three people in a confined space. And not in any great horrific sense, Michael. Nobody's a murderer in the room. There's no apparition that's making them relive their worst fears. They just have to put up with each other, and it's fucking dreadful.
Awful stuff altogether.
Awful stuff. But Michael, that seems to be fueling an awful lot of the old horror these days, particularly if you're from A24. Good grief, they do this very well.
Go on. I'd like to hear more.
One of the things that A24 kind of exploits religiously, if you like, Michael, and we spoke about it a little bit in the front room, but it's the horror of awful family dynamics. And a lot of that is played upon in a lot of the A24 stuff. The most famous example probably being Hereditary. Kind of the title that gave A24 its horror bones, if you will, was Hereditary. That came out in 2018. It was by Ari Aster. And he's gone on to do other things with Joaquin Phoenix. I can't remember what that was called. I think it's called Old. Is that what it's called?
No, Old was the one the M. Night Shyamalan
That was the M. Night Shyamalan.
I know the one you're talking about. We talked about it on this podcast. The one where Joaquin Phoenix is sunbathing and creepy.
But that also relies on very fucked family dynamics because he has a weird mother complex that he's dealing with. And it's called Beau is Afraid, Michael. Should have probably done that. And even if we go back to something like Midsommar, Michael, the other film that kind of made A24's name for it, that's about a collapsing relationship. It's about a boyfriend who can't break up with his partner, and it's about a non-functioning woman in that relationship. And yes, in each of these cases, Michael, it eventually kind of escalates or transforms into something much more horrific. Midsommar is a cult that's hell-bent on murdering outsiders as a sacrifice. Hereditary actually has a physical manifestation of a Peruvian demon that's running parts of the family. You know, the horror is real. I can't remember. I didn't see Beau is Afraid, so I don't actually know what the actual monster was, but I'm sure there was one.
I don't know if there was.
What builds the tension in all of these, Michael, is the dysfunctional family.
Go on.
And in Hereditary, it's particularly pronounced because you have the brother, the sister, the mother, and the non-participating father in all of it. Toni Collette plays the mother in it. And she is a woman who is unraveling at a rate of fucking nuts, Michael. And she takes out all her frustrations in life on her children, and horrific things happen to the children, but the tension is driven by the hatred of the mother. There's that famous scene, well, now infamous scene, I guess, where she completely unloads on her son and kind of screams at him in the room. And throughout all of these moments of tension, the father is played by Gabriel Byrne, of all people, Michael.
Grand lad, one of our fellas.
No, the exact man you would expect to say, did you ever hear of that existential playboy Sartre? That is literally Gabriel Byrne down the back of the long hall here in Dublin. But he is a disconnected father. She is an overburdened mother. he is a hellish child seeking his father's approval, and the poor daughter is something else altogether. She ends up decapitated at a certain point.
Sure.
But
Incredible
the
scene.
horror, yeah, just awful. But the horror is not only in that visceral violence that is occasionally enacted, but it's in watching that awful, strained relationship over and over. And it sucks you in if you have any kind of your own interpersonal tension, and it makes you relate to the characters, and it makes it all the worse, Michael.
Benjamin, in The Strangers chapter 1, she's a vegetarian and didn't propose to her because she said no 5 years ago.
Is that why the couple is a bit strained? The Fae people, is it?
No, they're not strained at all. That's pretty much all we know about them.
All right. Oh, that
Yeah,
sounds like a
yeah.
great film, Michael. That
No,
sounds
it's
good,
not
doesn't
very
it?
good. It's not very good
Lots
at all,
of-
I have to be honest.
Lots of subtext and subtle dynamics in there to sink your teeth into, you know?
No, you've mixed that up there, Ben. No, it's not at all. It's just people going, oh, there's people in the house. Like it.
That's just shite, is it? Someone who does this in a very similar way, Michael, and he got a mention at the top of the episode there as well. Jordan Peele kind of does this quite a bit in his horror things. It's not so much family dynamics that we see in his films, but what we see in his films are social dynamics and what certain people are forced to live and put up with, live through and put up with, especially, Michael, in his films through racial dynamics. The idea of hell as other people is no less films than it would be in something like Hereditary, because in his film, hell is other people, but in a very particular fashion, hell is other white people. In quite often in these particular dynamics, in his kind of debut work that set him up in Get Out, it's the horror of having to assimilate to white society, I suppose, or try and fit in with that society, and the bizarre fucking batshit crazy sci-fi exploitation of black people's labor and fame and physical prowess and all these other kinds of things, be that real or imagined in the world of the film. But one of the famous examples of that is the party scene in that, where Daniel Kaluuya's character is forced to interact with all these people he kind of doesn't really know. His girlfriend knows them. They're his girlfriend's family friends. You know, it's a weird thing. And he's forced to just kind of be like, oh, I'm so happy to be here. But
Yeah, there's one other black guy and he's weird.
and he's weird as fuck, because it turns out he's been replaced in his
Yeah,
mind.
Benjamin,
And
I'm going to cut
yeah.
across you to just say, though, just to bear this in mind, because I'd like you personally to bear this in mind. There's no such thing as white society. He's forced to blend in with white American society, a very specific subset of American society. Some of those Americans, those white American people, would be just as out of place at, say, a family gathering in
Praha, you say?
Praha. And I imagine Daniel Kaluuya's character would have felt even more out of place if he were, say, at a family gathering in Nigeria. Actually,
Yes.
real Nigeria. So, just to cut across you and reiterate the point, white American culture and black American culture.
Very good, Michael.
Because American culture is not universal. Just to get that across. Sorry, carry on.
Thank you. Thank you, Michael,
Look,
for,
you're welcome.
for reeling me back in.
Yeah.
Reeling me back in from my highfalutin notions about Sartre and white
Sartre.
fucking
Yeah, yeah.
society. Sartre. But anyway, come here to me. We
What?
see that again a little bit more in Us.
Me and you.
The family dynamics again are played with, and the societal dynamics. It's a black family going to a predominantly white holiday town is kind of the vibe that we're dealing with there. And again, it's a white American holiday town, very important, not Bray.
Not Bray, yeah.
Although based on Irish horror, you wouldn't want to go to Bray either.
No, stay away from it. No.
Terrible things happen in Bray. But hell is other people in this, Michael, is very different, because hell is other people, but hell is themselves. In the same sense, the enemy is them in a certain sense within Us. But it's also all the other tethered in that particular film. So
Us
it's
does
pretty interesting.
Us does a fantastic job of the home invasion terror, the fear of people coming into your home, and exactly like I said, just being there. They're not
just-
supernatural entities. They just show up, and you're like, ah, it's us for some reason.
I think, and you're welcome to debate me on this, but one of the things that we always we always call Jordan Peele's films horror films, but they're very much sci-fi thrillers more than horror, because there's not always an ugly buggly supernatural monster like there might be in Hereditary. It's usually a clone or an alien or, hypnotism is the villain.
Yeah, hypnotism.
Well,
It's hypnotism.
Hypnotism and racism is the villain of the first one.
Hypnotism and racism.
It's pretty interesting. There are, of course, we're running out of time here, ladies and gentlemen, unfortunately.
Benjamin, the last slide you put up was titled Jordan Peele's Bread and Butter. And my first reaction was, I haven't heard of that one. Sounds like a buddy cop movie. John Bread and Peter Butter are from two different sides of town.
Oh, ladies and gentlemen, that's too good for us not to finish on. That was a tight finisher, Michael. Well played, sir.
Oh, it's over, is it? Have I ended it? Very
It's
good.
over. Yeah, you've ended
I've put a stop to it with
Um,
John Peele's Bread and Butter.
But come here, John Peele's Bread and Butter. We're all over the shop, ladies and gentlemen. We've over-riffed.
His name's not
riffed
even John
too
Peele.
close to the sun, ladies and gentlemen.
Yeah.
Sense and logic has fallen apart, which is very fitting, Michael, because next week we're going to be taking a look at that cult classic film on one of our trademark episodes of Exhumed.
Oh,
Michael.
are we?
Yeah, we're going to be taking a look at Dark City. Fucking
Oh,
Sense
did we
and
not do
logic be
that?
damned. No, we haven't done Dark City before, Michael. We're doing it again.
Okay.
No, we've never
is that
done
the
it.
one with? Is that the one with the guy who looks a bit like Clive Owen?
Yeah, that's the one. That's the one.
What's that guy's name? Rufus Sewell?
Rufus Sewell, I think, is his name.
Is that him?
I think
Okay.
we both accidentally got that right, Michael, which
Yeah,
is bizarre.
I think we might have.
But we're taking a look at that film next week. But ladies and gentlemen,
Yes.
are you Team Homelander after episode 4, season 4 of The Boys? There's a few ways you can let us know. You can get in touch with us in a few different places. You can find us on the interwebs at www.seomrabeag.com, SEOMRABEAG.com.
Rennie Harlan directed Cliffhanger as well with Sylvester Stallone.
Cliffhanger, Michael.
Cliffhanger.
Yeah.
Amazing.
You can
career.
also find us on our other website, www.yourluxurylistenpodcast.acast.com.
Great stuff on that website.
Yeah, it's always up to date, genuinely, with the latest with the latest stuff that we're doing. You can find us, ladies and gentlemen, on Instagram at Your Luxury Listen podcast.
Yep. Hop up on it. Yep.
Yeah, you can find us on TikTok at Your Luxury Listen, our fastest growing social platform.
Great stuff. Some of the best reels.
Great stuff altogether. The best news is, ladies and gentlemen, you can find that all linked down below in the description with our no paywalled Discord channel.
Hop up on it for free.
For free, ladies and gentlemen. Such things as dreams are made of. That's it for us this late, ladies and gentlemen. Before you say goodbye to us, get up there and give us a review. Do it. Go on.
3 times. 3 times in one episode. The hubris. thing.
Trace.
Thrice.
Baby. Right. That's it, ladies and gentlemen. Bye.
All right. Talk to you next week.